two verses. John chapter 1, verse 1. We want to know who Jesus is, right? And so John 1, verse 1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. We know that the Word in John is Jesus Christ. And the reason that we know that is because when we go down to verse 14, we come to understand that the Word was made flesh. Everybody understand? And so the Word, which was God, wrapped himself in flesh. Why? Because he is the visible representation of God. And if you read the text, it says this, and we beheld his glory. Now, the idea of beholding anything is that you can look upon it.
Yep.
And so Christ, who is God, was made flesh and dwelt among us. He is the visible manifestation of God. You know what? I'm going to get away from the notes. I'm just going to talk. Is that fair enough? If it's a verse, I'll tell you to write it down, and you can write it down, and when you get home, you can check up behind it. Okay? And so let me say this again. Christ is the visible manifestation of God. Okay? Watch this. Watch this. Now, I'll quote this, and then we'll look at the verse. Did you not know that when we look at creation, the existence of creation is because of Christ? Of Christ. Did you not know when people say, well, where is Christ in the Old Testament? The very first verse. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. No, notice, in the beginning. So Christ is in the beginning. Well, he had to be. He's God. Isn't that right? That's not difficult. Look, we're already in the book of John. Let's just go ahead and read the next verse. Look at verse 2. Everybody got it?
Yep.
And there's nothing hard about this. And so in verse 2, well, it's actually verse 3. Listen to what he says. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Notice, it says all things were made by him. All things were, listen, the very fact that you're here, all things were made by him. All things. Why? Because he is the creator. Christ is the creator. Everybody understand? Watch this. Let me quote this for you. In the book of Psalms, it says something like this. It says, hang on a minute. I know the verse, and I knew it was going to slip up on me. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament, watch this, his handiwork. Who are we talking about? We're talking about Jesus Christ, because all things were made by him, or all things were created by him. Why? Because he was in the beginning with God. Nothing difficult about that. Okay? And so understand that Christ is the image of the invisible God. Everybody got that? Okay? Now, one other thing in our text, it not only says that he is the image of the invisible God, but it also says this. It says that he is the firstborn of every creature. Now, let me say this. When he says firstborn in the text, it's not as you read it that he's the first one born. That's not what he's talking about. First of all, Christ is not a created being, because it's through Christ that everything created came forth. In the text, when he talks about firstborn, It has to do with status. It has to do with preeminence. It has to do with, putting it simply, there is no power greater than him. Paul says in another place concerning Christ that he is the head of all principality and power. And the idea of being head means that he's on the top shelf looking down. But you understand that? This is the one that went to the tree. This is the one that paid the price for you to have eternal life. How awesome is that? Okay? Now let's get back to our Colossians text. And what I'm going to read you is what I just said in a bunch of other places. So go back to Colossians. Verse 16. Colossians 1 verse 16. Listen to what it says concerning Christ. It says, for by him were all things created that are in heaven, that are in earth, visible, invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him. Do y'all see that? Now we already saw that in the book of John, right? Said the exact same thing. Okay? And so notice all things are created by him. Give that some thought. Listen, when you're looking at Jupiter, Mars, the sun, the Milky Way, the earth, all things were created by him. Now notice he says visible or invisible. Now we don't have no problem with visible. I'm looking at you. But he speaks about a realm that we can't see when he talks about the issue of invisible. Did you not know that there are things in this life that we can't see? A world that is out of our realm. It's kind of like this. You know, you look at your hand and you can see your hand, but guess what? When it comes to bacteria and all these other living things that you can't see, God knows all about that. He knows all. It's like this. You get a microscope, you look into it, and all of a sudden there's all this stuff moving around that you couldn't see otherwise. Well, Christ created that. You know, the thing that I think about, see, man, it looks at the moon, it looks at the galaxy, and he calls it science. God didn't call it science, he calls it Jesus. Because all of that stuff comes into existence because of him. He is the one that created. And we learn, one of the verses says that he is before all things. Okay? Now I know, you know, we go into Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. We get all excited about Christmas. We get all excited about that babe in the manger. And we think that him being born in the flesh, that's when he just showed up. No, you need to understand, that was just a day when deity enwrapped itself in flesh. The doctrine for that is called the incarnation. That's a doctrine. Jesus Christ was in the beginning with the Father. He tells us right this, John. John chapter 17, verse 5. And the prayer that Jesus talking to the Father, he says, restore unto me the glory that I had with you before the world began. Christ didn't just show up on December 25th. Christ is eternal. He's eternal. You need to understand that it is this eternal one that gave himself to save you. Meditate on that. I got to throw this in there. It is the eternal one who knows all things. He knows your beginning from your end. I tell people all of the time, you don't have any surprises for God. He knows you. Listen, God knows you so well that before you even showed up. Listen, before you even got in your mother's womb, he knows everything there is to know about you. You don't have any surprises for him. And the reason I keep saying that, because I keep hearing about these people who got saved. And then all of a sudden down the road, they looking at God and say, well, never mind. I don't want this. I'm going to give it back. Y'all think God that's stupid? So understand, God is eternal. Jesus Christ is eternal. This is the one who gave himself to save you. And the reason I keep saying that over and over again is that you're going to have confidence in knowing that it is an eternal relationship that you have entered into with God. You need to know that. Are you with me? So, looking back at the text, listen to what he said. Verse 17. Oh, wait, the last part of 16 is important. It says all things are created by him and for him. Stop right there. By him and for him. Right. I mean, there's some positives and some negatives in the verse. Okay? Number one, the fact that you belong to him as a child of God, when it says and for him, listen, God's got a purpose, God's got a plan. You need to understand that if you're saved, you're part of the plan. Remember that verse, watch this. And we know that all things work together for good. Listen, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Yep. God saved you because God has purpose. God saved you. In the verse when it says for him, can I tell you something? Even when it comes to those that don't make it, we don't know who they are. God does. And God has purpose in it all. I'm telling you that because I'm trying to excite you to the fact that your eyes have been opened. You could be just like the people on the outside who are still dead in their sins and trespasses, don't care nothing about God, don't want to know nothing about God, but that's not you. Why is that? It's because God, according to his purpose, saved you. Trying to excite you. Trying to excite you so that you don't take your salvation for granted. We spend too much time complaining about what we don't have instead of coming to an understanding of what we do have in Christ. There's not a devil in hell that can ever snatch you from God ever again. I didn't say you may not fall on your face, trip over yourself, but there's not a devil in hell that can have you again, because God put his mark on you. I'm trying to encourage you. God's got a lot of good stuff for us. It's good now, but it's going to get even better when we leave here. When he talks about the inheritance of the saints in the light, that's what he's talking about. Okay? Now, notice in our next verse, concerning Christ, it says that he is before all things. We've already talked about that. Him being the head, he is before all things. Now, notice, before all things. There's nothing that was here before he got here. Then again, you can't even say when he got here. Why? Because it says in the beginning. It is a dateless past when we talk about in the beginning. Because someone's always asking the question, well, I hear about God. Well, who made God? Nobody. Nobody. Because he was in the beginning. Nobody. But guess what?
Yeah.
We're talking about Christ.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to get you to see, is that we're talking about Christ. He was before all things. And then he goes on to say, and by him all things consist. Let me give you an example. That word consist means to uphold. Kind of look at it like this. We call it science. You open up that book, we see the sun. We talk about a rotation that goes around the sun. Can you imagine if there's one misstep by any planet, they get too close to the sun, what's going to happen? Burn up.
Right.
But the reason that doesn't happen, because of the person of Christ, all things consist. He holds it up. When it comes to gravity and the universe, he is the one that upholds it, has everything working the way it should be working. We call it science. God calls it Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's what God calls it. Jesus Christ. Okay? And so think about it. The one that made the worlds, the one that made the planets, the one that even made the sun, he created all of this, but it is the same person that thought enough about me to go to the cross.
Yes.
And do for me what I could not do for myself. How awesome is that? This is the Jesus that Paul preaches to us. Write this down. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. All I want you to see in the text is that Paul says that Jesus Christ is the image of God. This is the Jesus that Paul preaches, that he is very God. He's very man, but yet he is very God. But listen, write this verse down. Hebrews chapter 1, verse 3.
Yes.
Just give you a little bit of the verse. This is what the writer of Hebrews says concerning Christ. He says concerning Christ, that Christ, who being in the likeness, I may not quote that just right. I'll probably have to go look at it. Let me read it to you right. I got it. Who being in the brightness of his glory, and then he says that Jesus Christ is the express image of God. Y'all see that? The express image of, in other words, you look at Jesus, you know who you're looking at? Looking at God. Because he's the Word that was made flesh and dwelt among us. Why? Because God is invisible. Another verse with the word invisible in it, 1 Timothy, you can write it down. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 17. Now the reason that I give you these verses is because I'm doing a lot of talking, but you need to go back and see the verses and say, oh, that's what that preacher was saying. It's important. It's important. So I'm not just talking to be talking or quoting to be quoting. We're looking at the verses and let the verses say. Okay? And so one more time. Christ is before all things. He's before all things. And by him all things consist. Let me put it to you another way. If Christ was to remove himself from creation, it would be beyond anarchy and chaos. Everybody understand? Kind of look at it like this. Something simple like, how would you like it if it was dark 24 hours a day? I don't think we can call it a day, could we? But you see how delicate God is? Daytime, nighttime. You understand? That's all because of Christ. Meditate on that. Okay? Now, I'm going to say this and I'll close. The other thing that we're going to learn in verse 18, real briefly because I'll pick up next week. Christ is the head of the church. Now, when he talks about the head of the church, he's talking about his body. He's not talking about the Baptist church, the Methodist church, the Catholic church. No, that's all carnal stuff. He's not talking about that at all. So when he says that Christ is the head of the church, he's talking about those that God has called out from sin to newness of life. Listen, those, some going to get mad because I've been accused of being a Calvinist, but I'm going to say it anyway. Those that God has chosen from the foundation of the world, this is the church. This is the body. It is spiritual in nature. Christ is the head. Meaning that because he is the head, he has all power, he has a preeminence, he has all authority. Everybody understand? This is the body that we are in. This body is not Jewish. It's not Gentile. It's not black. It's not white. Now they fighting over all that stuff down here in the earth, and they think it's a big deal. God ain't studying this confusion. Understand that the church is the work of God, not the work of men. It is the work of God. The church that God is building is not a building on the street corner. You go in, shake the preacher's hand, and do a lot of lying. God not building it, man. It's spiritual in nature. But you understand that. And so when we talk about the church, which is his body, it's got everything in it. Because the issue is not you, but him. He says in another place that we are all one in Christ Jesus. That's where God's emphasis is. It's Christ. Listen, when we come here, if it's not about Christ, we need to go home. We need to padlock the doors and don't let nobody come up in here. If it's not about Christ. And so our job as Christians is to glorify God. How do we do that? We talked about it this morning. Gina, I know you talked about it in your class. The way that we glorify God is that we let this Jesus, who is before all things, made all things, we let this Jesus be our life. If we do that, then we're serving the purpose of God, and Christ is honored. Everybody understand? So when we come here, I'll say this in our closing. When we come here, we're not just coming here to worship. Some people put too much emphasis on that. No, we come here, you roll up your sleeves because we got work to do. You need to be taught.
Oh, yeah.
See, if you're going to build something up, somebody got to be working for it to be built up. So when you come here and you're getting the word and spiritually you're growing in your understanding, you're being edified, you're becoming stronger and stronger. You know, the whole idea of being stronger and stronger is simply this, is that you know, that you know, that you know.
Right.
And so we don't want anybody to be ignorant in the building. My job as a pastor is to make sure that you are not ignorant in the building. You need to know who you are in Christ. You need to know the one who gave himself. Once you learn those things, then you can have confidence. Even when you stumble. Some people say, well, no, if you're a Christian, you'll never stumble. That's a lie. But aren't you glad that the God who's rich in mercy does not abandon you? Preacher, you're advocating sin. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you something about yourself that you may not admit. Like I say, I'm a preacher, and guess what? I have my crybaby sessions. I'm serious, I do. I can whine with the best of them. I ain't gonna lie. I'm telling the truth. Some people might say, you know what, I'm sick of him. I understand. Because I can get real good at complaining. But you know what I've learned? The closer I get to him, the less I complain. Because the closer I get to him, it's all about him. You want to be delivered? That's the way you do it. Get closer to him. Okay? Fair enough, everybody? Simple enough? And you know that text? Let me tell you something about that text. That's one of them texts you be like, the preacher be saying, oh man, well, that's one of them texts. Well, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna show up. See, that's foolish. Because simplicity in the text tells you everything you need to know. That's why we keep it simple. Okay? Just speak the truth of what's on the page.
Yeah.
Okay? So the next time you tell me you can't, I'm gonna say, and? But what about the one that's in you? He'll never say, I can't. All right, I'm